What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Extra Point College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Carnes, joined as always by my co-host, Daniel Hammock. Daniel, we've got probably my favorite episode that we've ever done on this show. We hinted at it during the regular season, and that was that, it always comes up of, hey, what do you think about their uniforms? Or, ooh, this is a great uniform matchup. Big uniform guy. So we're going to draft we're going to draft the top 10 uniforms in college football, but we're going to do this going back and forth and singular uniform. So like, for example, pick a random A school, Arizona, like Arizona's home uniform. So we'll have a chance to talk about other uniforms, but that's how we're going to do it. We'll both go back. So we'll both get to pick 5. We'll go back and forth with 10. We'll drop some honorable mentions at the end. I've been giddy all day thinking about this.
This is definitely a Jacob episode. I'm excited. I think you and obviously our friend Hunter, y'all are always swapping like, hey, did y'all see this uniform? This one's great. I love this. I love that. And I'll be honest with you. I think growing up a Georgia fan, a Falcons fan, it's just been red and black. I'm just used to a certain color wheel, It's like I like my teams. I don't like other teams. That was kind of my thing. I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention. They both had more so Georgia had very classic uniforms, very, cut and dry, which, we'll get to, I'm sure. But that being said, I didn't really peek out and really imagine what great uniforms are amongst college football until you started pointing it out more. As we became friends, and I was like, this is interesting. So over the past, I would say 5 years, about 5 years now, I've been like interested in like, oh yeah, because my buddy growing up, shout out Preston Anderson, he would always point out like, oh yeah, this color combo or this, I like these numbers on this jersey, and I'm like, I don't even care. I've never even thought about that, but the color of the number on the jersey, does it pop? Can you read it? Can you see everything? And then you start realizing what's pleasing to your eyes when you're watching a game. So it's all great, especially all of that. College football is known for pageantry and tradition. And so if you can watch a game and know exactly who you're watching, I think there's a certain charm to that that's not found in everything else. There's a lot of people out there that try too hard and maybe put some crazy jersey out there that are just really swing for the fences. And it's like, I don't even know who I'm watching right now. Or, the Orange Bowl, or we're watching Clemson and Tennessee. That was stressful to try to figure out who we were watching, but that's not exactly the same thing. But yes, you get where I'm going.
I love this. So I started today we were kind of talking about this pre-show. I'm like, okay. So I started I'm just pulling up like 8 teams in the ACC. Want to make sure I get them all. I'm like, I'm going to give everyone a chance because I had in my head, like, I know these teams are some of my favorites. So I jotted those down, but I'm like, I want to give every team a chance. So I'm going through, I'm like, okay, ooh, these are good. These are good. And did it for every conference, including the group of 5, and pulled out it was like 30 something deep of these uniforms. I was like, ooh, I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that list, I narrowed it down. I was like, okay, but does this deserve to be compared with some of the greatest uniforms in the sport? That list got cut in half just by asking that question of like, does this deserve to be in the conversation even for best uniforms in the sport? I did find 17 uniforms that I felt like needed to be in the conversation.
They're top 10 worthy, you would say.
Right. And I'm only get to get 5 of mine. I'm hoping that some of these are on yours. It'll be hilarious if I get to do my entire top 5. I doubt it. But we'll have a chance to talk about all of these at the end. And just a stipulation at the beginning too. If a team, we'll use Arizona again because Arizona's not on my list. I'm sorry, Arizona. If Arizona's home uniform gets taken, I'll mention if the away one was on your list, we'll mention it. But like, we're not going to draft a team twice.
Right.
So you're not going to get USC or
any team may or may not be on the list. Jacob, you're doing so good. I was going to compliment how you said, we'll pick an A team, Arizona. I was like, I like how you didn't say Alabama because they may or may not be something. You said Arizona,
I
and I
got
was
a
like,
couple
that's
A teams on here.
yeah,
Freudian slip.
Yeah.
Oops. Anyway, we'll get to them. Probably. We'll definitely get to them. So right before we get started, just want to mention spring practice has started. So
Yes.
be sure to like, subscribe, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, because as news from spring football comes out, we'll be talking about it here on the Extra Point. So, I mean, what's more fun than the three biggest brands and programs in the sport all having quarterback competitions at Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama? So,
In the age of NIL and transfer portal, where these coaches are going to be very careful to release information, but at the same time, I think that, they've got to kind of get to a place where they name a guy. I think it's important to a lot of people to kind of get out in front of it. So it's tough, gamesmanship aspect. So we'll definitely be covering it as soon as we get news.
Daniel, I would typically just be like, you have first pick. I want to flip a coin because I
Let's
want a
do it.
chance at first pick here. I'll let you call it though. Heads or tails?
All right, tails.
Flip a coin.
It's heads.
It's heads. Okay. This is big. Number one on my board, the best uniform in college football. It's actually changed since the last time I've mentioned it on the show a few times. After looking at it again today, it's changed a little bit. Number one for me, I'm going to go to the Big Ten, Ohio State's away uniform. And here's the thing, the one they wore in the Peach Bowl was fine, but it's not the best. Their regular away uniform. What I love about it, number one, it's one of the most iconic helmets in college football. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see a picture of it right now. An iconic helmet. The stripe that's on the helmet is on the sleeve of the jersey and on the pants. The color of that gray on the helmet matches the pants exactly. The block numbers, which a lot of these have block. I'm not just a block number person. If the font works, it works. But block numbers are highly encouraged because if you venture off, it better be good. It better be really, really good.
Right.
Or block-esque even. Some schools on here have block-esque numbers. Very classic block numbers. I also like the size and boldness of the block numbers. So the red on white doesn't look good on every uniform, like direct with no border on it.
Mm-hmm.
But on Ohio State's, it pops. And they go black cleats with it. It is an iconic look altogether. I think it is the best uniform in college football. And I think we didn't mention this in the front end. We mentioned it pre-show. I went into this thinking I love a lot of away uniforms. I actually walked away with a lot of home uniforms on my list because I do think it's tougher for an away uniform to stick out because everyone's going to have that same white color jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And so the rest of the uniform is going to matter. So yeah, Ohio State away was number one on my list. Obviously, they have great home uniforms too for a lot of the same reasons. That same stripe is also on the jersey, but it almost doesn't look like it because the biggest part of the stripe is red. And so but I like that they kept it red on the red jersey. So it doesn't pop as much, but I like the continuity of it all. So was Ohio State on your list?
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. They're firmly on my list. I also list was like, I know that Jacob's got these 5 or 6 for sure. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I was like, that's a good one. I prefer the white. And like you were saying, you thought you would trend more away. I actually did trend more away jerseys. And so I had to actively, if I liked both home and away of some teams, I would actually select the home to try to offset some of my away bias because
There
some
you
of
go.
them prefer away no matter what. Some of them it's kind of a coin flip. So if you got good colors, chances are you're going to have a good home and away.
That's
And
right.
so,
That's right.
it's
Starts with good
it's
colors.
all right. Well, I you might know where I'm going to go. I am going to go an away jersey,
Okay.
and it's a very classic, a very big brand. I'm going with Texas. All right. Texas all whites. That is my favorite look in all of college football. When that
There you go.
it just looks the burnt orange is great, which yes, they do have a good home jersey because there's something about just classic basic look.
Yeah.
Very identifiable, very easy. But that all white, it was kind of the first feeling I had of watching it, especially when Vince Young's wearing it. And it's like it's just clean and
It's
it just
clean.
looks good and it's just easy. So it's like it just says Texas across it. Like there's so many
So,
good things about like the simplicity of it, and it just like the name Texas, the word Texas is very aesthetically pleasing because the X in the middle. There's a lot that I've thought about with this, but I'm not as detailed as you. But this is it is this is my favorite jersey. This would be my number one. So I would take them number one actually over Ohio
there you
State or
go.
whatever. This is how I would if I had number one pick. This is what I'd be selecting.
So also, I want to point out that you mentioned the Texas across the chest. From about 2013, 14-ish until this season, they also had a big Longhorn logo. And I always thought it looked a little busy. And this year, they took away the Longhorn logo and left just the Texas, which was the look they had in that Vince Young era. There wasn't the Longhorn
Okay.
logo. And so this was the first year in at least 4 or 5 years that it didn't have both. And I think just the Texas across the chest looks so clean. I'm with you. I actually prefer their home. And again, I went into it thinking I love their away. I prefer their home. It was in my top 10. It was number 10. So I'm
Okay.
glad this made
Number 10
this.
for Vince Young.
That's right. This deserves to make the list. And again, you said it. Good colors matter, and like the burnt orange is so unique to Texas. Iconic. Love it. Okay, then I will go to my number 2 on the big board. I'm staying in the Big Ten. I'm staying in the game because Michigan's home uniform is one of the best uniforms in college football. Again, I'll start with, and you'll see a trend here on my, at least my top 6. There's a trend here. Iconic helmet. It's the winged helmet.
Yeah.
I like the Jordan look. Let me rephrase that. Not just the Jordan brand. Since they've updated the jerseys when they went to Jordan, the helmet being that flat navy, I actually think makes the wings pop more than they did when it was like a regular helmet. And so I like the new, like, deeper navy because it makes that maze pop on the helmet. Same thing with the jersey. And this is a variation of a blocked number. And so it's still blocked, numbers, but it's their own font and own version of it. And it works. Like, it works for Michigan. That bright maze pops on that jersey. And I do have a caveat here. Their normal home uniform with the maze pants, stop the blue on blue, Michigan. You already have the best home uniform in college football with the navy and maze. So Michigan was number 2 on my big board, number 3 in our draft. The Big Ten's got some good uniforms.
Oh yeah. Well, history, tradition, the more they stay with it, the better it looks. This episode should be a beacon to those teams to be encouraged to continue to wear these uniforms and not like Ohio State where they try to do the blackout sometimes or have the black numbers and do weird
Yeah.
stuff, or
No, no,
like
no,
you're
no.
talking about with Michigan wearing navy pants. It's like, look, you got a great thing. It's one of the greatest things.
It's
If
iconic.
another team with crappy colors, like they look at this and wish they could do it, just do it.
Right.
So
Iconic.
anyways,
No,
anyways,
I'm glad you said this.
you
It
definitely have
needs to be
gotten me
said.
on the uniform bandwagon. When I see something or when I see a traditional school that's with one, brand and then they change brands, I get worried that something's going to change. A lot of times it does.
When the
And it
template
worries me.
changes, it matters. You'll
It's
notice our first 3 are all Nike schools.
yeah. So there's a trend that's going to continue, but I there's a fear for me that you're going to take this one because you already kind of mentioned it a little bit. I'm going to take Oregon. All right.
Okay.
I love Oregon. I've always loved their look. I think if people say uniforms in college football, I think Oregon is one of the first teams they think of. Now, obviously, there's a big caveat that comes with this because we're talking about one specific uniform, and Oregon wears a million specific uniforms. So I
I
have a very specific
okay.
look that I love for Oregon, and it is green helmets with the O. I like
Okay.
and then I like the green jerseys with the yellow numbers, white pants. So I am very traditional. I like that more than some of their other stuff. But honestly, theirs is so iconic. Even when they throw a curveball and just completely mix up everything, you're watching Oregon. Just because the font, you know, the the colors. I mean, it's even when they do black, I feel like you just know it's Oregon. Their brand is very obvious.
So I'm looking at, and if you're watching on YouTube, you will be looking at this exact uniform. I had in my, it was number 9 for me, but I had a hard time placing Oregon because if I'm picking a single uniform up against some of these other ones, it was difficult. But I'm glad they're on here. They deserve to be in the top 10 because you can't talk about uniforms in college football without talking about Oregon. I also had an Oregon home uniform close. I like the white, green, white. But this past year, they wore a white helmet with the green wings that had a green O on the back,
Okay,
with
yeah,
that
yeah.
green jersey with yellow numbers, and then white pants that looked clean. I also want to mention one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Oregon uniform ever. I need to look this up what year they wore this, but they wore a uniform that the goal was to replicate the mascot of the Duck. Do you remember
Oh
this?
yeah. I vaguely, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
So it was a white helmet with an orange face mask to match the beak, green jersey, white pants, orange leggings and socks, and orange shoes to look like the Duck mascot. And it was like, you would think this is going to look weird. They're trying too hard. It was so clean. And again, watch on YouTube. I'll have a picture of it up here when you're watching. Uh, it was a good uniform, but I like their simplified look now of they've got 5 jerseys, they've got 5 pants, they've got 5 helmets, and they just kind of do combos. I think historically they did a lot more. I like the simplified version of it, I guess, but it's still, like you said, you're watching Oregon when they take the field.
Yeah.
Um, okay, Oregon deserved to be on here,
I know I
100%.
reached a little bit because I
That's
do
okay.
have them lower in my top 10. I reached specifically so I could get my combination rather than whatever you were
Perfect.
going to say. So
And you said green, green, white, right?
green, green, white. Yeah.
Okay, I'm making that down so we can make sure we get it. Okay, number 5. Here we go. So this is number 3 on my big board. This one started the day at number 1, and this is also a school that I went into it thinking their away uniform I think is the best uniform period in college football. Then I switched to, man, I like the home better, and I think their home's the best uniform in college football. And then I still am debating this one. Anyway, West Coast. I'll stay in the Pac-12, current Pac-12. USC. USC's home uniform is, again, iconic.
Yeah.
Starts with colors. Like, you have great colors. It's not maroon. What do they actually call their color? They just call it red. Do you know?
I was
I'm
going to
gonna
say
look it up.
scarlet, right?
I know that Ohio State is scarlet. Maybe it is
No,
scarlet. Let's
there's
see.
scarlet, and then there's
Cardinal.
cardinal because
Cardinal
Florida
and gold.
State's garnet.
Florida State's garnet. Yeah. So that the Cardinal helmet, Cardinal jersey, the gold pants, the simple
Ooh,
dual stripe,
yeah.
the gold numbers against the dark Cardinal jersey pop. The shoulder stripes are, again, it is USC as soon as they take the field. That's what the shoulder stripes are unique to USC. The helmet with that classic Trojan logo. I love the gray face mask. I love that they've kept that. They've even done a variation of the helmet that wasn't terrible. Like, they did a chrome-ish helmet for a little while. They've gone away from it now, but it still worked with the uniform. Again, when they take the field, it's USC. I think it is obviously one of the best uniforms in college football. It's iconic. And they also have an amazing away uniform. I went into the day thinking USC's away is number one.
I
I was
have their
stoked.
away jersey on mine as one of my top
Yeah,
5. So
it's iconic.
yeah, it's great.
And I like that the away one too has the, what would you say,
Collar.
cardinal collar.
Yeah,
Like that pops. And the same thing
it's
with the
good.
shoulder stripes.
Well, it looks good because of how the helmet works with the collar. It's all great, but yeah, no, they're another one again, and it's it's a color combination when we say good colors. Like some color combos don't work, or some are just lazy or boring, or some are just not so differentiated between other. There's too many of the same. Like there are a ton of different shades of red out there, but theirs is very specific. That gold is very specific to what they do. So it's like you see that and it's obvious. So no, great pick. I love that one.
All right, what's your next pick, Daniel?
All right. Well, I can't go too far down the list without going with LSU. All right. We've let this go long enough. They're in my top 3 for uniforms. I love I mean it's the home which they wear on the road because they're geniuses. They're like, "Hey, we've got a great combo and everyone else wears colors, so we're just going to wear
That's right.
it's the gold or yellow, whatever you want to call it, yellow, white, yellow as their combo." And it just looks great. The purple numbers pops. That's their colors. I feel like it's the most conservative way to wear yellow and purple, and it looks great. And you talk about things with, you've talked about, you think they have, at times you've said the best helmet in college football, things like this. I agree. It's one of the best ones. I may get to the best one later if time
Ooh.
so allows, but yeah,
I was
they
gonna
have.
say the best one's been the best 3 have been drafted in my opinion. So now I'm
Okay,
curious who your number one is.
I think I have a better
Oh, I
one.
know who it is.
Yeah, you probably do. But I may have given away too much. Um, anyways, no, but LSU just, I mean, you know, I'm not all into the stripes, but you can tell it's them. You can tell, the pant stripe, the ones on the shoulders, all that. But it's simple, but it's like it's just them. You just know. I mean, and I think something that we need to mention with this, Jacob, it obviously has to be a team that has some sort of storied history in some capacity. They don't have to have been great for all these years, but there has to be some, like, when you see LSU, you're in for it. Like you're about to deal with some folks who you ain't trying to deal with, and it's just going to be a tough game. I think the same is true for like when somebody plays Texas or USC or Ohio State or Michigan, all the teams we've mentioned. It's like the brand is very important. The colors are important. The jerseys are important, and you'll get another team's best shot because they're playing that school. I think LSU fits both molds in that they're. Is this our first SEC team that we've put in here? Yeah,
Yes.
this is our first SEC team. Wow. All right. Let's keep that in mind, everybody. We just got to the SEC and it's LSU. They're the first ones out of the gate. But yeah, there's something about that. I just think that you're in for I don't want to say a dog fight, a cat fight, I guess. When you're playing LSU, you see their jerseys and their whole look. It just works for me.
Yeah, we've talked about colors a little bit. Purple and gold can look terrible.
Oh yeah.
Looking at you, ECU, it can look really, really bad, and they make it work. So I feel like I'll say LSU is number 4 for me. So that was next. If you didn't take him, I was going to.
Okay.
So I still think it is. I've gone back and forth. Yes, at times I've said best helmet in college football. I still might think that. I might lean Ohio State or Michigan.
It depends on the day, I think. When you
Depends
get
on the
real
day.
excited about it and you just go, it's fine. There can be 10 best helmets in college football or
There's a lot of
5
good
or
ones. That's why we love the sport. One of the reasons why we love the sport. But I really fell in love with this uniform in 2019. It was like you said. I think watching a team perform at the highest level, and and they look good doing it. You're like, oh yeah, that's a really good looking uniform. When Joe Burrow is winning a Heisman in purple and gold, it all of a sudden looks really, really good. So I'd always liked it. And then that year I was like, this uniform rocks.
Yeah.
Like this is such a good uniform. Something about the way it looks too in a night game in Death Valley. It pops under those lights, man. So great pick. Glad that one's on our list. I'm going to go to the next team on my big board. So my number 5, going to the ACC, going to another iconic helmet, and Florida State. Florida State's home uniform is what I chose. Another team that I went into thinking, I think I like the away more. And I'm like, but man, that home, this looks so good. And here's the thing. They made a few mistakes when they did their rebrand. All right. When they got the new template. For example, the gold numbers in the road looked terrible. The color gold they had was bad. Like so much so that they had to like, number one, they switched road jerseys by game 3 because you couldn't see the gold numbers on TV. Switch back to the garnet numbers. Thank God. And then by midseason, they had switched the gold on their helmet. The gold in their helmet was not the right color gold. They fixed all that. And better yet, they went back to white numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They had gold numbers in the jerseys and the rebrand. With the fixes they've made, I think it's the best Florida State's, uniform has ever looked. And again, this is a team that does not have traditional block numbers. They have a unique, Seminole font. And love the Seminole pattern on the sleeves of the jersey and in the collar. The white numbers now pop. The gold matches. That's important. On the helmet and pants. The spear logo on the helmet. That's the only place they use it, is on that helmet. The tomahawk helmet stickers. Like the whole uniform is just beautiful. And again, one that at a night game in Tallahassee and Doak Campbell, it pops. So Florida State.
We some dogs. We ain't no puppies.
That's
SEC,
right.
Florida State.
That's
To quote
right.
the great orator Jameis Winston. I had them on my list, obviously. I actually was probably going to go to them pretty soon because I only have 2 more picks. But yeah, this was secrets out. This was my best helmet in college football. So
there you go. Okay. So not the one I thought, but
okay. Yeah, this is my favorite helmet because of the spear, exactly what you mentioned. I like that this is the only place they use it, and it's just so relevant for them, and it's just iconic. Everybody knows what it is. So it's good. And I was going to mention the rebrand because just traditionally I've loved their jerseys. And then was it 2014? It was Jameis's first year, or is it second year?
it was that first playoff year. So 14.
Yeah,
Because he won the Natty in the old stuff.
Won the Natty in the
then,
old one, and then they changed it. Now so I
all
didn't
hell
like
broke
it.
loose.
I didn't like it initially. That's why he started throwing so many picks, and then that continued into the NFL.
For years.
Yeah, but for years he never got right. But no, I think that one I was gonna go away, but as you have I think convinced me that after sitting here and just picturing it, which obviously if you're watching on YouTube, we're putting it on here for you. That garnet and gold, it's just special. And it's, it is iconic. That helmet, their font, I think it's cool because like you've talked about a couple times, it's difficult to stray away from a block number and still look, I don't want to say professional
Classy.
or just a very it's an easy, very clean look. That's probably the best way to say it. Clean.
Yeah.
Because people get with these weird fonts, and it's like, all right, like you're trying too hard, but this is just true to Florida State. It's who they've been, and it looks good. So I like the number 3 on their jerseys, whether it's on 30, 13, or just the number 3
Jordan
itself.
Travis. Yeah.
I think that looks the best on their jersey, their font. So but yeah, Florida State, I agree.
So question about Florida State's away uniform. Love the classic. I also love they brought it back this year for the first time in years. I like the garnet pants on the road.
Yeah.
I think it took me watching, maybe it was the national championship they played against Florida. They wore garnet pants. I need to go back and look. It was a game in the 90s. I was like, that's a cool look. They haven't worn that in a while. And then fans asked for it this year. Might have been the Miami game. They wore garnet pants, and I was like, "Oh, that looks good." So now I don't know which one I like more.
It was probably our good friend Wes Anderson, who's a diehard Florida State fan. Wes, if you're listening, shout out. Maybe comment when you see this stuff come by as to what this was. We'll get
I
the
need to
best.
know. I
Yeah,
like
we need to
both.
know. What's your favorite, Wes? We need to know because he's a big Florida State fan,
That's
big
right.
traditional fan of uniforms. Jacob, you'd be proud of him. He's a Miami Dolphins fan. I saw him getting after the Dolphins, and I think he is the one that engineered them coming back to their old look this year.
Are they are they,
They,
are they doing it full time this year?
yeah, I think so. I think
Wow.
so. So
Thank
I
goodness.
think he bullied them on social media enough. So shout out Wes Anderson. Great job. He always gives his feedback anytime he sees jerseys, which I appreciate, especially his teams. So, anyways, I digress. My next one is, oh man, I only have two left. There's a lot on here. I feel like
So
I'm
here's the good thing. I've got I oh wow, no, I have 3 of my top 10 left. And only one pick. So
I'm worried because I've got like several that I feel like, okay, top 10. I'm thinking top 10. I need to eliminate. Yeah,
say
they're
best
not
on the
top 10.
board. Just best on the board.
My favorite on the board, they're not okay. Thank you. That helped me out a little bit. All right. Talk about golds matching, Jacob. I'm about to make you angry. Notre Dame. All right.
That one's okay. That's the
I was
only
gonna say
one. That's the
they get a
only one.
caveat. Notre Dame, and I'm gonna go with their home jersey, navy on gold with the gold domes and the golden domers. I mean, that is just that's you talk about, because I believe they were traditionally Nike, and then they swapped to Under Armour years
And
ago.
their contract is up next summer. So
But when they swapped, I was nervous that the Under Armour was gonna do something weird or whatever, but it didn't. It looks good. It stayed looking good. It's classic. I'm pretty sure that was part of Notre Dame's deal because they're very traditional, you know, Catholic school. They want things to stay how it is. So I love how the helmets are shiny. And when they're hitting folks, you see gold dust flying in the air. That's great. But yeah, it's simple, it's classic. And I was gonna say this is one of my few caveats of like I don't have to have the golds matching. It
you gonna
doesn't.
paint actual gold in the pants to make it
Yeah,
match?
it doesn't bother me one bit, because everything else matches, and it's just like a shiny gold helmet, which is just special. It's different from anyone else. Like nobody else does it. They're. And so it probably was spurned on a little bit by watching Rudy as a kid. It caused me to just be like, all right, because all the time you see them in their practice uniforms and you're like, oh wow, that's crazy. And then when they put on the game uniforms, you're like, wow, that's a clean look. So from that as a kid to, now just watching it. And again, it's one of these iconic brands that just transcends, college football itself. So super recognizable. You immediately know what you're watching. It's great.
So we're gonna get a couple iconic matchups this year. Our number 1 and 3 are gonna get to play this year in that combo in Ann Arbor. So Michigan, don't mess this up like you did last time. We're also going to get 1 versus 8, Notre Dame and Ohio State in South Bend in that combo. Notre Dame at
Mm-hmm.
home, Ohio State away uniforms. That might be uniform matchup of the year. We'll see. Okay, Daniel, with my last pick. Okay, I've got so Notre Dame was 6 on my board. You got that one done. I've got 7 and 8 on my board left. I mean, here's where I'm at. I can go 7, my top pick left, or I can go 8 and be a homer. So is my number 8 on your list?
Mm-hmm.
Would that be your last pick, or do I just go ahead and go homer?
Basically, I was just waiting. I'm glad that I had the last pick because I was like, if it doesn't get picked, I will pick. I have
Okay.
a couple. I have a couple like that. So I think you're gonna pick the one I'm thinking of, and then the other one is probably what I was gonna pick. So
I'm debating now. Well, here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to go Homer because I don't know which combo you're going to pick. I'm
You're
going
stressing me out.
Georgia's away uniform.
Ooh.
Number 8 on my board. I will say that this season, and again, it helps when a team's winning. So this season, Georgia brought back block numbers, which is important. And I think that the block numbers help me love the home uniform again. I thought I didn't love it. It's an iconic look. But the block numbers and, watching Georgia have a lot of success in the home uniform this year made me like think again, like, oh, wow, Georgia's home uniform is still a great uniform. But the away uniform is my favorite. Similar to USC's away, I love that the color combos with that uniform work. You've got the red helmet, the collar's red, black numbers, which are like bold, stick out against the white. And then, of course, unique to Georgia, iconic silver breeches with both their home and away uniforms with the pant stripe. That's that red, white, black, front to back on the pants. You bring back the block numbers this year, Daniel. And my only small minor complaint with Georgia's uniforms are I want the block numbers to be a little bit bigger, like and thicker. They're very much block like they were in like the late 2000s, which everyone's block numbers were that thin. Now everyone's got some thicker block numbers. And so a little bit thicker on the block numbers. And I think this would actually jump into the top 5 for me. So Georgia's away uniform will be number 9 on our draft.
I like it. I actually had Georgia's home uniform
There
as
you
my
go.
selection. So you kind of did what I did with Oregon. You wanted to get your uniform matchup, which I very much appreciate. I can appreciate that. Um, so, all right. The team for me is obvious that I want to keep in the top 10.
Ooh,
They have a great home and away jersey. I do not like their alternate jersey that they have used on occasion. They
Big
are a
10?
blue blood.
Okay, never mind.
No. So I am going with Oklahoma.
Okay.
All right. I like the home jerseys better than the away slightly, but I don't like that bone color, whatever it is, the
Yeah, the
cream,
cream.
whatever that is. That's just, it makes me angry when I watch their games and they're wearing that
Right.
because it looks so good in their traditional home or traditional away. And so, yeah, I'm going whatever their color is, Sooner red, maroon, whatever it
So
is,
there's just
crimson,
crimson. Yeah.
crimson helmet, crimson jersey, and then white pants. So none of that cream off white color. It's all, and then,
I
but
love
yeah,
it.
I do like their away jersey with just the crimson helmet and then white shirt, white pants. Uh, their colors go. You know exactly who you're watching when you watch them. That's why I don't like when they wear that other variation.
So Oklahoma was so I said I had 17 teams that I was like they deserve to be in the conversation. It was number 17 for me.
Okay.
Uh Home uniform was the combo. I like their away. I want to juxtapose that to the team that was 16 on my list, Alabama. Very similar in like the home uniform is red, white, same as Oklahoma, or actually crimson, white. The difference is I like Oklahoma's away. I don't love Alabama's away uniform. And I think it's a combination of the pant stripes are thin and close together on Alabama's, a little bit further away on Oklahoma's. And then 2, Oklahoma has a brighter helmet. And so I think when you're wearing color white with a colored helmet, I think Alabama's helmet being a flat crimson makes it look duller than
Yeah.
Oklahoma's that
Okay.
looks brighter. So that is my I had Alabama above Oklahoma for the home, but away I think Oklahoma's is better. Uh do you have stuff you left off the board you want to talk about?
I got 3 honorable mentions. Is
Mention
that
them.
too many?
Mention them. No, because I've got like 6 or 7.
Okay, so this might make you feel better. All right, so and Jacob, you encouraged me by saying, "Give me the best on your board." That's when I started to make sure that I was hitting dingers. All right, so these other ones, may not be dingers for everybody, but I really like them. So specifically Ole Miss powder blue helmet, jersey,
Okay.
and regular white pants. All right. I didn't put it on the list because I feel like they've never hit it out of the park completely by having red and powder blue stripe down the side of the pants. I think they did that one time, uh, but a lot of times you'll actually see them have powder blue helmet, white jersey with red, and then pants with red and navy stripe, and that navy is never found anywhere else, and that drives me crazy. So I don't like that, but I like powder blue on the powder blue with white pants. I think that's a clean look. Their baseball team uses that look a lot, and so I like that specifically for Ole Miss. Uh, One that I've kind of fallen in love with recently, Tulane wearing their powder blues with that special helmet with kind of the metallic green wave on it.
Yeah.
And
The
then,
white one.
yeah, I prefer white pants, but a lot of times they just go full powder blue, the whole thing. I think that's why I would actually, they're an honorable mention rather than being actually on the list for me. Um, and then this one, Jacob, I feel like I defer to you a little bit. Uh, North Carolina. I really love North Carolina. Their
Number 11.
colors are phenomenal. Colors are phenomenal. They'll always be phenomenal. I think that sometimes they get a little cute, and that may have hurt them here. Um, I like, I mean, traditional, Carolina blue. They have their own blue. I mean, come on, Carolina blue helmet with I like the home a little bit more than the away, but I'll take both. They're both great. I think but the Argyle like stuff is fine,
You
but
don't
it's
like it?
not.
Okay.
It's just not like it's not my favorite. So that's again why they're probably more of an honorable mention. Um, you know, it is what it is. I don't like when they start throwing Navy into stuff.
Nope.
It really makes me not happy about things. And
Border
then
on the
anytime
numbers. That's it.
they put that stupid like the heel, the foot on the helmet, I would it would affect them negatively. I think that they lose any game that they put that on instead of what they have. So
So I want to mention a few teams. You had a pattern there. You all had different variations of light blue. So
mhm.
I have one more light blue team I want to mention, but Carolina, I actually like the Argyle. They're my favorite uniform in college basketball. And again, the
Okay.
Argyle is iconic to North Carolina. So I like that. Hey, UNC football does not have that much winning history or tradition. So why not steal from the basketball team? And I like that I like where it is in the collar. It's minimal. I could deal with it without it, but I do like that it's the helmet stripe has the Argyle.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that it's the same stripe on the like color pattern on the helmet and pants, no matter what color they are. And so I think my favorite combo is it was number 11 for me, the Carolina blue, white. So the home
Yeah.
uniform with blue, white pants was number 11 for me. One more powder blue team, UCLA.
Ooh.
UCLA was that number 7 team that
Or as Coach O calls it, sissy blue. That's what
that's
he
right,
calls it.
sissy blue. Uh,
So
they got really bad there for a minute when they went through their Adidas Under Armour phase. And
yeah.
then Jordan came in and just tightened things up and fixed it. So uh, it's perfect now. They're home and away. Like I would not change anything about it. I think it is perfect. It's iconic. It pops. I love when we get the home v home uniforms when USC and UCLA play. It's one of the best uniform matchups in college football. So a lot of blues there. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. Now I've already talked about Alabama, so 4 more. Number 12 for me, Clemson's away uniform, but specifically their orange pants.
Okay.
Because when they bring out the orange pants, it's the same the same stripe on the helmet and pants. And so they look like in 2016, again, iconic moment when Deshaun beat
Right.
Alabama and you got the orange, white, orange. I think that's very clean. Auburn's home uniform, I had at 13. Same thing, the stripe. And again, I think the theme here, you know exactly who it is when they take the field. The white, navy white. The stripe works. Like a lot of navy, the pops of orange. Works for Auburn. Stop messing with the face mask. It's whatever. It's minimal, but like the white face mask looks the white face mask, or excuse me, the navy face mask looks the best. Um, Penn State home. Don't love the away. Like if I'm gonna pick an all white uniform, I'm with you. Texas is the best. But the white navy white in a whiteout game, especially on TV, looks unbelievable. Penn State. And then lastly at 15, I had Florida. So their home uniform, their classic home, the orange, blue, white. Again, you know exactly who it is when they're playing. A team that keeps the stripe the same no matter the color combo. So if they wear, whether it's on the helmet, jersey, pants, it is still that it's white, blue, orange on everything. And I like love the continuity. The script gators, you know exactly who it is when they take the field. They also have their own number font, but it's still a play on block numbers. And you know, it's their look. So all the teams we talked about, Daniel, minus Tulane, Ole Miss. Well, I guess Ole Miss is classic. You know, a lot of classic uniforms. Not a lot of
Oh
teams that are
yeah.
doing a lot of stuff outside of Oregon, but that's been Oregon's thing for a long time, is doing different uniforms, like since the 90s. And so,
Right.
like, that is their tradition. So, if you're someone who loves the changing uniforms, sorry, we love tradition. And there's a reason all these programs win and look good doing it, is with their classic looks. I want to take a few minutes, Daniel. I didn't prep you for this, so I can I can talk about mine. But disappointments. Are there any uniforms that either you hate or are disappointed in for lack of the potential they have?
Ooh, this is interesting. Um,
Because I have one disappointment that that immediately comes to mind.
I mean, we live in Atlanta, so
It's on the list. It's
yeah.
not the one, but
I mean, I'll go ahead and say Georgia Tech. Like I think that they had a good thing going when they were just the, you know, gold, white, and it was like that. You know, they were kind of, I don't want to put them in the class of Notre Dame, but it kind of felt like that a little bit because they had the navy and the gold, and that was their look for so long. And then they kind of went through this weird rebrand in 2008. And from that point on, they kind of had the weird, different, different color. Everything was a different color gold. Then they started doing these honeycomb, which was like their best look in the worst jerseys. It was just not good. And then it's tough to say they fixed it. They improved what they had, but still, yeah, I don't like their number font, and that's just not going to change. So
I don't hate it, but I'm with you on that. I think they have a few good looks. They just need to stick to. Like, quit wearing the all blue. Like, your
yeah,
colors are literally white and gold.
they have
Quit doing the all
one of
blue.
their songs is white and gold, and they're wearing blue as a primary color. So yeah, no, I agree.
So yeah, Tech has a lot of potential because I actually liked their, I guess, pre 2008, the gold jersey. I think white numbers are hard to pop on a gold jersey, but theirs did. Like the dark navy
Because they
outline
had the
helped the
navy
numbers.
outline, right?
So biggest disappointment to me as far as potential goes because of color combos, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech had a
Mm.
good thing going with a simple shoulder stripe. Now they get this crazy huge collar shoulder stripe combo, and they try to put like the hokey stone inside the numbers. It looks terrible. And Virginia Tech had like, you want to know what the fans love? I think it was last year they brought back like their Vic era uniforms. That was even pre shoulder stripe, which I like the shoulder stripes. And everyone was like, "Yes, please keep this." Like block numbers, don't like their new number font. And again, in an era where I feel like around 2010, everyone tried the whole number font thing, and slowly teams have come back, like Georgia being an example of one of those, to block numbers. And Virginia Tech, like in the last 2-3 years, went the opposite direction. They were like, let's go more modern, you know, like the Falcons or
They zigged when
the
everybody zagged.
Rams. Yeah. So Virginia Tech, because no one else has that combination of maroon and orange. And so you know who it is when they take the field. It's just now it's an embarrassment when they take the field. So for a lot of reasons. I'll tell you, I'll give you one more that I hate.
Oh, I've got a hate for sure.
Louisville.
Ooh,
And kind of mixed with a disappointment because red and black, it's really
it's
easy to look
easy.
good in red and
It's
black.
easy to look good.
I don't know if it's a mixture of things. The font, the amount of combos, Adidas has tried to make them Oregon. And it's like they've fallen in their face again and again and again. The Adidas template, I don't love. I can only think of like one team that looks relatively good in it, and it's like Miami looks decent. But I don't know what it is with the Adidas template that it looks like a high school jersey instead of looking professional. And Louisville is the prime example of just like red and black thrown up on a uniform. Yeah, that's one of the ones I hate the most, especially because of how good they could look.
So are we doing only hate like a normal jersey? Like a normal look?
Wait,
Because obviously the show would be too long if we went down the list of
oh, if you have one alternate
awful
you hate, I can think of one that's the worst of all time.
Florida.
Probably,
But
yeah.
but I also respectfully, I hate that one. But that Michigan State with the like
Oh,
oversized state, it really just makes me cringe in so many different areas because it's got their color that like that neon that didn't even go. But I'll
and they
keep
wear it
it.
regularly.
It's weird. I'll keep it on. I'll keep it on uh, brand here. A regular jersey that's worn that I don't like. TCU. I don't like
Mm,
their horned collar. I
I don't
don't
like
like
it
a lot of
either.
that kind of stuff. I think that they could. I think they could be so cool with what they do, and I think that it's just a little, you know, a little try hardy. It's kind of reminds me of like, you know, kind of feel like you'd find that jersey like on MySpace. It's like that's that's kind of my feeling when I look at that. It's like it's old. It's outdated, but it's not like classic dated. It's like they tried to do something and then it didn't work and then they just stuck with it. So
Yeah, I'm with you on again, disappointing because of the potential it could have. And here's the thing, I do like teams experimenting with helmets. I think bringing back some like old logos or some cool like mascot logos, that's awesome. I'm with you on. I don't like the collar thing they got going on with TCU, and I feel like they had really cool modern uniforms around like 2012, 2015 ish, like that range. I think they hit their sweet spot. And now it's like, I guess they cleaned up the simplicity of it outside the collar, but I don't like the silver numbers on the black or purple jerseys. Keep it white. It's like a metallic silver too. So their away uniform is the best one because it doesn't have metallically silver numbers. Um, but they're like, I don't know what they call it. They're like poison frog, like red number uniform with like a purple head. It's terrible. That's a really really good pick. Man, that's a terrible look. Like, no, dude, no reason. I mean,
you made me so happy validating my pick. That's just because I know
dude,
how you care.
no wonder they got beat 65-7 in the national championship. Did you see what they were wearing?
Dude.
I mean, they deserve to get beat that bad by having cool colors and then walking out like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
tradition wins out once again. Um, I can't think of any more that I absolutely hate. I had Louisville, Virginia Tech, and Georgia Tech written down. Man, TCU needs to be at the top of that list of high ceiling, low floor. Dude, even like the Andy Dalton era uniforms look good. Like, I wouldn't think that purple, black, and purple would look good, but it looked clean. Like it was,
Somehow.
and again, in a Rose Bowl, it looked good. The all white was fine in the Fiesta Bowl. Like that one looks fine. Colors popped. I actually didn't even mind the collar on that one, but all the rest of them though, I hate it. So, man, this was fun. So now we
I think
have.
this like scratched an itch that's just been there for a while for you, and it just kind of we got to just get it all out there.
Here's the thing, though. We kind of did it last season. We just need to make it a regular segment on the show during the season of like, what's the uniform matchup of the week? We can come with our picks
I like
and
it.
yeah, just what's the best uniform matchup? Because then you could, it's even more difficult because now it's got to be two teams that look really good. And how
Oh, yeah.
often does one team ruin it for the other one? Like in the national championship.
All the
So,
time. All the time.
oh man, this has been fun. We'll be back next week right here on the Extra Point. Be sure to follow us on social and YouTube at the Extra Point Pod. You can follow him on Twitter at Deep South Daniel. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Carnes with a K. That'll do it for this edition of the Extra Point. He's Daniel. I'm Jacob.